Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of our weekly Catalyst meditation. Um, I'm uh, I did my announcement late, but I did it very comprehensively so that I'm hoping I don't have to send out another announcement because you can mark your calendar up for the entire month of what we're going to be doing. I'm probably not going to do more than what I got listed there. And I will probably do all that I've got listed there. Hopefully, we'll see. Um, and the topic for the today, this is a little difficult. Um, our topic for the day is spiritual starvation. And this is the concept of spiritual starvation is a concept that's in my book, Creating a World That Works for All. Now, the challenge with that is um, because it's in the book that I've had for the past close to 30 years now. I've made an assumption that has read it. Okay, so I talk from it. And then when I say something to someone, I realize that they haven't read it. And it's I have to go back to ground zero. And of course, I should just make the assumption that everybody in America has read the book. That I think that's reasonable. Um, but I am not. So I'm going back and I'm going to talk about this month in our talks. I'm going to be talking about some very basic concepts because I think that we're missing some of the basic stuff because I've been adding to the concepts and I've been not talking about the basics. So, and spiritual starvation is one of the most basic of the basic concepts. We we spend time talking about our problems. And my finger on the pulse of what people are talking about is going to the gym and just listening to the conversations that come up. Some of the conversations I create, and those get really interesting, but a lot of times I'm just sitting there listening to other people talking, and they're talking about the government shutdown, and they're talking about the militarization, the politicalization of our military, and things like that. And I keep saying to myself, that ain't the problem, and that ain't the problem, and that ain't the problem. Uh, and if and what I mean by that is it's not that these things aren't problems. It's that if you solve that problem, we still have a big problem. We haven't gotten to the biggest problem. It's like um, being locked in with an uncaged beast that's trying to eat you, and you've got your stove on and your dinner's about to burn. Okay. You can fix the stove all you want to, but that's not going to solve the bigger problem you've got, which is you're about to die. Um, and that's not even your biggest problem. It's not that you're about to die, it's that you are about to lose the essence of yourself. And um, so I want to spend a few minutes today talking about spiritual starvation so that we can talk about how do you cure that spiritual starvation. And I want to talk to you about what spiritual starvation is not. One of the things I do very early in the book, and do very early in talking with people, and I do early in my own life, is separate the concepts of religion over here and spirituality over here. Now, one of the problems, um, we have for thousands of years conflated the two. So when I'm talking about spirituality, I mean religion. When I'm talking about religion, I mean spirituality. You know what I'm talking about, etc. And we don't. We don't know what we talk about anymore. And therefore, that is a major contributor to the problem. Um, I'm not going to get into a theological discussion now. We can do that one day. That would be, I think that would be mildly interesting. Um, and since it's morning time here in Portland, Oregon, I've got clouds of crows going by my window right now. And they all want to stop on this one wire here, and they all like playing on this wire. I don't know what there is about the wire, but I enjoy them. Um, so um, so when I say spiritual starvation, I don't mean that you should go to church or synagogue or masjid or kiva or temple or anywhere else. Okay. I'm not saying you should perform some rituals. I'm not saying, I'm also not saying that you shouldn't. Okay. I perform just about everybody's rituals I get invited to. I mean, it's not a bad idea from time to time to do that. Um, but that's not the core essence of what I'm talking about in terms of spiritual starvation and why, as we're talking about the concept of changing our society, that it's important for us to talk about this. So, um, I have more book. This is my the book that the cover's falling off of. I've got more tab. I got almost every page tabbed, and I have to do color coded tabs as to what subject I'm working on. Um, in the book, I talk about something that the architect Christopher Alexander talked about in his books, mainly a timeless way of building, which I think should be called a timeless way of being. He talked about the quality without a name. And he says, if you see it in a building, you know it's there. And he says, you can call it perfect, you can call it beautiful, you can call it all these other things, but all of those words are less than what you're seeing in this building, in this person, in this thing. Um, in my book, I talked about the opposite. I call it the problem without a name. And I say our societal and personal problems are so, number one, fundamental, number two, nightmarish, number three, complex, and number four, interlocked, that they are incapable of being addressed with our current techniques of problem solving. Okay, so everything, back up, almost everything that we are doing to resolve our problems don't work. Problems still exist. Goes on and on and on. Because you haven't nailed down the thing that you think ought to work. We don't have a word that defines them, so I give you one. Um, and I say there's an equal and opposite quality to the one Alexander defined. It's the quality of our pain, our ugliness, our cynicism, our brutality, our cold-heartedness, and our violence. In the book, I call that the mess. Now, I use that as a term, and those who read the book recognize that when you talk about the mess, there's nothing else that will fit there. Everything else, as Alexander found the quality, the beautiful quality without a name. Even saying it's beautiful is a subset. That the mess is a subset. The mess is the umbrella under which we can put all the other things like racism, sexism, homophobia, bad breath, etc. It all fits in there. Okay. And once we've got that, okay, we can start to see that we have a problem. And that problem I talk about on page 44, and I call it a soul-starved society. And I say our humanity has been violated. We are powerful spiritual beings living in a system that robs us of our power. We are sacred creatures in a desecrated land. Okay. Now, I go on to say we are starved. We live in a society that starves our soul. We live, we, this starvation has led to a condition in which it's difficult to be fed because we don't even know that there's something missing. All the things that we are trying to solve, like, yeah, the reason I feel so terrible is I don't have enough money. So I get more money, I get more money, I get more money, and I still feel terrible. Money wasn't the problem. Vamala Thakar, whom you've heard me talk about, um, and if I start talking about Vamala Thakar, we'll be on her for a couple of hours. You should read her. Um, she said, your negative feeling has little to do with the other person, saying that, we're trying to stop these people from doing X or whatever. Um, the gym I go to, the people, all the gyms are talking about Trump. Some of them are talking about, oh, yay, Trump. And the one I go to is not a yay, Trump gym. Um, but your negative feeling has little to do with the other person. It emerges from the discontent with the reality of your own life. The negative feeling is not a feeling directed toward others. It is a feeling directed toward yourself. The feeling arises when you are not reconciled to the fact of what you are. And most of us, especially in American society, are not reconciled to who and what we are. Our job, my job, the job of the people who inhabit this techno space that we're in. Um, our job is to be reconciled, for us to be able to answer another concept that I've put in the book, um, and that is the hunger for the sacred. The hunger for the sacred, as I say in the book, is a good thing. It's like a child's um, hunger for food after it comes out of the womb. For 9 months, you're getting all the food that you need right through your navel. You don't have to chew. You don't have to do anything. You're just absorbing it. And then after all this weird stuff goes on, and there's light and there's cold and all this other stuff, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I'm hungry. And you go, okay, what happened to that cord? And you figure out there's another way you've got to eat now. And there are other ways we have to become spiritually fed. We don't know what they are. And we spend our time in churches and synagogues and masjids and temples and covilles and everywhere else. And sometimes we get fed. A lot of times we don't. We do it out of habit. We do it because somebody said we'll be bad people if we don't do it. Um, and What we need to do, what we're dying to do, what we're desperate to do is find the mechanism that feeds our hunger. And it's there. It is present for us. Um, and I'll talk about it in a minute. But one of the things I want to do, there's a lot of things that happen um, when you are spiritually starved. You can see people who have no reverence for anything in the world, and you can see that as their spiritual starvation. You also see people who um, go to church regularly. They start churches. They're the ministers or the priests or the rabbis or the imams or the whatevers. But in how they talk about the world and what they do in the world, you can tell there's something empty. They rattle. Okay. Um, Now, we could make a list of the symptoms of spiritual starvation. I have a list on page 33 of the book. You should look at it. But I have four main things I talk about, the four symptoms of spiritual starvation. Number one, anger and violence. Number two, escapist behavior. Number three, denial and numbing. Number four, control and manipulation. Have you seen anybody or any groups of people engaged in that? Okay. You probably have seen a few. You probably have seen a lot. And their emptiness, their spiritual emptiness, the hunger for the sacred has driven them to starvation, and they try to put things in there. Um, I didn't name um, television. I don't know. We have not created a better um, instrument for ignoring our own starvation besides turning up the volume on the television. Um, as I've told you before, I don't watch television. Um, I will refine that for you. If someone says, Sharif, you should watch this program, and if it makes sense to do so, I will find it somewhere in the the ether of the internet. I'll download it and I'll watch just that program. I will not watch the commercials, etc. So when I go to a when I go to a restaurant, I spend it sometimes that the people are wondering what's he standing in the middle of the room for. I will try to find a table that does not have a view of a TV screen. It's really hard to do. Um, and so when I can't do that, those are the times when I get exposed to commercials. And I'm like, oh my God, what are they showing on commercials nowadays? What are people putting in their brains? So I bring a book with me. I try to put my head in a book, but they have all the flashing lights, etc., to draw your eyeballs in another direction, etc. So so our challenge, though, and I'm looking at what kind of time I've got. Um, our our challenge is cut off your connection to all of the symptoms of spiritual starvation, but that doesn't fix it. What actually is going to fix it? And what fixes it is our receptivity and our capacity for love and compassion. I'm saying this, Dalai Lama says the same thing in his books. People read it and they listen and they say, oh, that's really wise, or that's really, good, or, yeah. And then they turn the TV back on and don't do anything about it. And so our challenge is, where is our um, um, where is our um, the source of our connection? And Jenna, as people have been on this call before, um, this half hour is my half hour to go blah blah blah. I'm going to uh, ask you to write that down, and we'll talk about that after we do our catalyst meditation. Um, so what I'm saying is love and compassion is the uh, the fix. But there's something wrong with that, because there people say I'm being loving, I'm being compassionate, I do good things in my neighborhood, and it doesn't work. Okay. And that's where I talk about the spiritual rehydration packet on page 64. Um, and I remind us that the Buddha said, we learn not from experience, but from our capacity to experience. If you're dying of thirst, you're thirsty, you need water desperately, and you don't have a cup. You show up to the water fountain with a fork. And no matter how much you're trying to get, you don't get enough water. What you have to do is, and I experienced this in Egypt and Turkey, um, where I dehydrated in Egypt to the point that in Turkey, my body could not absorb water. Um, So the folks who are running this hotel in Turkey, none of whom spoke English, which was make sure when you want to live in a quaint, realistic place, make sure there's somebody around there that speaks English. So they kept bringing me more and more water, and it would just wash more electrolytes out of my body, and I'm getting worse and worse. What I needed, and I finally figured out how to say this, is a little packet of chemicals that's called a rehydration packet. And you put that in your water, and it allows your body to absorb the water that's all around it. And you get well really, really quick. I was on my feet in like half an hour. Before that, I was down in the bed for 2 days. Um, and so our challenge is, how can we rehydrate our spirituality? How can we get to a place where you actually can absorb the love, the compassion, the wisdom that's all around you? Now, from my growing up in Camden, New Jersey, the worst city in America, um, what I got from that was a little tiny thimble to put my water in. Okay. Now, I could complain other people got a tanker truck and I got a thimble. And that's exactly the wrong way to look at this. What I could do and what I have done is say, wow, what can I do with this thimble? And I can get enough water in me to get myself a real glass. I get enough water in me to then get a, a tanker. And then I get enough water in me to so I say, okay, now I've got so much water. I can give some out to others. And I can, by doing more and more of that, I get to the point that I am now spiritually fulfilled. I filled my hunger for the sacred. So let me say hello, everyone, and welcome to our Catalyst meditation for this week. Let me say something very quickly. We are not, repeat, not doing a Catalyst meditation for this evening. We're going to move that to Tuesdays. And the reason we're doing the move is that it's just too much work to do, having a weekly on Thursday and then also having the weekly evening on Thursdays. So um, please attend the evening Catalyst meditation on Tuesday. Um, uh, I am welcoming those who have joined us today. I'm also welcoming those who are following on the outline. And I see that we have an anonymous Kraken on the outline. We haven't had a Kraken before. Um, and welcome to those who have been with us in the past on the Catalyst meditation but can't join us today. Um, we're going to start the way we normally start, and that's with our centering experience. And that is 3 minutes of a breathing app that gives us a chance to synchronize our breath with each other so we can be focused on ourselves, focused on each other, and also focused on all other conscious living beings. And if we can, breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. And if we can continue with our silent centering for another minute or so. Okay, if you can come back to our common center, we'll continue with the setting of our intentions. As the imaginal cells within the chrysalis come together to form the butterfly out of the disintegrated caterpillar cells, we come together to form a gateway for the meta-consciousness of the mind of Gaia. We act for ourselves personally, and we act as aspects of Gaia. Holonic consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe. Every atom in the universe holds consciousness. It is always with us. We're acknowledging that now because many humans have forgotten, and many humans have been in denial. We act to reawaken our connection to Gaia, to Mother Earth, for the benefit of all living beings. And we acknowledge our connection to all beings. This connection includes all humans, including those who have gone before and those who are to come. All beings who thrive on and in the air. All beings who thrive on and in the water. All beings who thrive on and in the earth. All beings who thrive on and in our bodies. All beings that thrive on light, the beings of the plant realms. All meta beings, including the earth as a living meta being, air as a living meta being, fire as a living meta being, water as a living meta being, all colony beings, meta beings that are collections of solo beings, and this includes murmurations, colonies, schools, hives, pods, flocks, herds, migrations, harmonies, swarms, and other forms of colony beings. We especially acknowledge and honor those beings who are partnered and bound with us, including those beings we rely upon for food, for security, for assistance, and for love and companionship, and those beings who rely on us for the same. And we acknowledge all other forms of consciousness, known and unknown to us. Having acknowledged these beings, we now blend all of our energies. May all who are part of Gaia be connected to and in perfect health, harmony, and balance with each other and with Gaia for the common good. We are in perfect physical health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect emotional health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect relational health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect mental health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect holonic health, harmony, and balance. We are in perfect spatial and temporal health, harmony, and balance. We are in the perfect place at the perfect time, in the perfect conditions, and with the perfect beings. We set and we energize our declarations. We declare that Gaia, Mother Earth, is the ultimate governing principle, the way that humans govern their behavior on this planet, replacing all other forms of human governance. This is the way our behavior aligns with the will of the earth. We declare that humans are one family, one species, one destiny. Separations are illusory. We declare that humans are colony beings. We deepen and expand our human murmurations, our human harmonies. We declare that Gaia, Mother Earth, is providing all necessary resources to achieve the vision of a world that works for all living beings. We declare that we are creating a political and economic system where all beings participate in it, all beings are in relationship with it, all beings own it, all beings benefit from it, and all beings govern it for the common good. So we will now meditate within this holonic energy. We'll now meditate within the energy of Mother Earth. During our meditation, we'll be listening for any messages that we may receive that we will bring back to others. During the meditation, we'll be making any personal requests that we may have. And we'll be deepening and expanding our human experience of our human murmurations, our human harmonies. And we'll be doing that for the next 8 to 10 minutes, and we'll be starting now. And if we can come back to our mutual center, we'll conclude with our inclusivity mantra. May I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May we be well. May we be secure. May we be happy. And may all beings be happy, be well. May all beings be secure. And may all beings be happy. And so it is. And so it shall be. And thank you for attending. She has the first opportunity because she was had her digital hand raised during our the first part of our talk. So Jenna, you are there.
Good morning, and thank you. I'd simply raised my hand because you had gone through several things pretty quickly. And what book were you quoting from?
One of mine, and I will dig it out here. Um, Creating a world that works for all. And I hold this up knowing that the image is backwards, and it's backwards. The backwards image is on purpose, but unfortunately, the it doesn't work when you hold up books and things like that. Um, when I'm looking into the camera, it looks like I'm looking into a mirror. So when I raise my hands or move around, it looks like I'm just talking into a mirror. And it really helps when I do things like I need to scratch my head and I'm not scratching the wrong side of my head. Um, but but yeah, so creating a world that works for all, and this is for those who haven't read any of my stuff, um, is I think the linchpin of all of the books. I think that you I think you should read all of them. I think that people who have gotten a full range of them get a lot more out of Commonway than they would um, normally get. Um, but I think that without reading Creating a World That Works for All, you don't get it. That we are doing something different. Um, the other thing, the other book, of course, is and it's right over there, but I don't feel like digging for it, so I can show you what the cover looks like backwards. Is Birthing the Nation of Gaia. Um, so these are my bookends. Um, Actually, the first book, The Power of One, Authentic Leadership in Turbulent Times, is, I think, still an important book. And I have to say, again, for those who don't know me well, I have to, I try to divorce my ego from talking about the books because it sounds very egotistical. Oh, this is an essential book and you should read this book. It's like, yeah, but these really are essential books and you really should read them. But the ones in the middle between Creating a World That Works for All and Birthing the Nation of Gaia are, I think, really important filler books, but it's not true. It's more than filler. But if you live your life without reading them, your life is diminished about that much. But if you don't read Creating a World That Works for All, you don't know what we're talking about. And if you don't read Birthing a Nation of Gaia, you don't know where we're going. So
Mhm.
For those of you who have read either or both of the books, if you disagree with me or if you agree with me, you should say something so it doesn't sound like me just going yap, yap, yap. Um, so I don't know if that answers your question, Jenna. You're still, I don't know.
Oh, it certainly does. And I thank you for sharing that. Um, I can't read all of them at once, but I understand that what you're conveying is that these are foundational concepts.
Mhm.
And my sense in reading the upheavals is that's more addressing application.
Um, yeah. In fact, it's strange that you're starting with the Chronicles of the Upheavals because I think that um, it's real. Um, Kim Stanley Robinson wrote a series of science fiction books or speculative fiction, as it's better known in the world. And the series was Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars. And I read Red and Green. I haven't tackled Blue yet, and I'm going to. It's an amazing. He's an amazing writer with wrote some amazing books. But Arthur C. Clarke said something really great about the series. He said Red Mars is not a science fiction book about Mars. He said that's how you get to Mars. Now, Elon Musk read Red Mars. That's how he's getting to Mars. Okay. I would like to say Chronicles of the Upheavals is not a speculative fiction book about the future. That's how you get to the future. This is how you do it. That's how some of us are doing it, which is really interesting. And I won't tell you how interesting because I know Greg is waiting patiently here. Um, but there's one chapter, for example, for those of you who don't have Chronicles of the Upheavals, um, that's called, I think the chapter's called The Muscle Train. And the folks in this near future have a way of getting around um, uh, creating bamboo trains that roll on the existing um, railroad tracks and run by people pedaling real fast. And but not they don't run on pedal power. They run on the electric motors that the pedals are driving. Um, they're doing that right now in Thailand, which is like I should go over and sue them because this is my idea. No, but there's lots of ideas of how you get to a society and get to a world that works for all living beings, and we can do that. Okay. So Greg, you are being very patient here.
Well, I just wanted to say that it's been over a decade since I read Creating a World That Works for All. And one of the most important things it lays out is the idea of the three general categories of human cultures, right? The keepers, those who keep the indigenous wisdom and the idea that we have to live within the bounds of nature. The breaker culture, which you see all around us, whose driving ideal is we can do it better than nature. The example that I always give is if you ask a typical American to scrape the inside of some willow bark into some boiling water and drink it down, they'll look at you like you're crazy. But as long as it's measured into a pill and the acetylsalicylic acid is removed from everything else,
And
then
you can say that. You can say the accidental good being an ass.
yes, yes. So, but the most important thing is Daniel Quinn in his book Ishmael came up with these two cultural ideas, but he couldn't take it further. He said, we're just doomed to, go back to pre-civilization. And Sharif's big idea is that we can meld the best of both cultures and have a culture that can sustainably use technology to feed and clothe billions of people in comfort and security. And so that's the thing that creating a world that works for all lays out. The Chronicles of the Upheavals has to do with a download that Sharif got about how this is going to happen. And uh, since my memory is not as good as it was since I read Birthing the Nation of Gaia, I'm not going to talk about it more specifically, except to say I guess it's time to read it again.
Yes, and if necessary, we'll start tattooing chapters of that on your arm so that you can. Oh yeah, the chapter 5 is really important. Um, no, I think that was a number one. Thank you for a really good synopsis of that part of creating a world that works for all. Um, I it reminds me of something. Um, when I was first talking to Steve Piersanti, who was yeah, I guess he was and is again the CEO of Barrett Kohler Publishers, my publisher, one of my publishers. Um, he was saying, he said most books have one or two important ideas in them, and the author expands them. He says, you have two or three important ideas per chapter. And he said, I don't know what to do with all of that. Like that's enough material for a book series, but I don't want to write a series. I want to put it all in a space that people can get their hands on. Um, but but as Greg said, this notion of the consciousness that is running our planet. I don't see people talking about it as consciousness. We talk about um, patriarchy. We talk about colonization. We talk about um, uh, global devastation. We talk about climate change, etc. But we don't talk about the consciousness that gives us all those things. Okay. So when I talk about, just to pick an example, if I talk about racism, all of the people of color in the room relax. Okay, not talking about me. And now, yes, I am talking about you. That breaker consciousness looks different when a black person is saying it, but it doesn't make it any less devastating. Yeah, breaker consciousness looks different than when a woman who has experienced oppression says it, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't have the same consciousness. And I think that the reason that that the keepers, the breakers, and the menders are not um, more widely talked about is that it makes people really comfortable because you cannot run from it. You can't say, oh, yes, those Republicans over there, they're the ones that are creating the problems. Um, no, all of us are. And we create different kinds of problems. Um, the problems that my group creates, I like my problems. The problems that these other groups create, oh, they're evil and they should be stopped. It's like, no, all of us share this, and all of us can make the change. All of us have the ability to wake up. As the Buddha said, we all, as long as you're drawing air, we all have the capacity to expand our experience. of what we're supposed to be doing on this planet. Um, and not disparage the people who are at step 3 of their 10,000-mile journey just because I'm a mile ahead of my 10,000-mile journey. Um, so anyway, I think I'm going to have to get my timer out and start timing myself on my responses because I don't want to um, go on too far here. Um, although, okay, I see Jenna's microphone just got hot again. But before I want to see if there's anybody else lining up here. This is not
Sure.
supposed to be blah 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 time for me again. So, but I'm not seeing anybody. So, Jenna, you got the floor.
I just wanted to share from my experience this morning. What I noticed was various scenarios popping in. And the only way I can sort of categorize it is to say it was showing me how superficially I try to relate to Gaia and the earth. And no conclusions from that. No, do this instead. Just bringing awareness to that.
Um, yeah.
And I don't think I'm that superficial, but it was interesting that my sense was there's a deeper level of connection, and in current culture, we don't know how to go there.
Um, yeah, what I'm doing right now is dropping my pen, but I'm trying to get my thoughts together because that is a very big topic. Um, the I'm going to try to do this in 4 minutes, but no guarantees. Okay, so um, I use the word breaker to talk about the consciousness that we have in our society, and the word fits in so many different ways. Um, when I first used it, I meant those who break the sacred hoop, and this is, I think, a Hopi statement that the world is a hoop and it goes round and round. And in order for you to be living on the world, you've got to do your part. And if I'm not doing my part, I'm breaking this bond. I'm breaking this sacred trust, break the sacred hoop. But there's other ways that we break things. And one of the things that we break is our relationship to other beings and our relationship to ourselves. And we break it because it's superficial, you know? Um, how many of us know how to harvest our own food? And that goes from gathering the wheat and threshing the wheat and my thresher is broken. I don't even have a thresher. I don't know what a thresher looks like. Okay. Um, two, um, catching the fish. Two, slaughtering the cow or the whatever lamb or whatever it is that we're eating. Um, how many of us have even seen it done? So we have this we touch the earth very lightly. It's like we're wearing gloves all the time. We're wearing full body gloves and we're not touching the earth. We're not touching each other. we're not touching um, uh, our beingness. So two quick stories. Um, One is, oh, and I can't, somebody on the line is going to look up um, the author of the book, Community and the Politics of Place. I keep telling you, he's a friend of mine, he's a friend of mine, and I keep forgetting his name. He's a former mayor of Missoula, Montana. And he and I were talking, and we are talking about um, uh, community. And he said, that in growing up in Eastern Montana, um, they absolutely relied on their neighbors for support. He said we would not make it. We would have died if we weren't for our neighbors, and our neighbors would have died if it weren't for us. Um, at harvest time, at lambing time, and I didn't even know that lambing was a verb. I don't know what you do while you're lambing, but I didn't really want to know. Um, and um, and he said we didn't like our neighbors. They said there's nothing about them we liked. He said we didn't like them, but we needed them for our lives. And you think about that nowadays. We're exactly the opposite. Um, I like all of my neighbors. I mean, I really do. I mean, we talk to each other once in a while. We have a glass of wine together. Da, da, da. I don't need them for anything. Not one thing. Um, oh, that's that's my timer saying, "Shut up, Sharif." Okay, no, I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to tell you this other story. Um, uh, this happened some years ago, and uh, there was flooding on the eastern, oh, I'm sorry, the part over there, the western part of Oregon. And that's the dairy part of Oregon. And in the Tillamook Valley, where a lot of your cheese comes from, the cows were literally standing under their udders were underwater, and the farmers had to put on scuba gear and go down and milk the cows while their udders were underwater because they had to be milked. You don't, when you are engaged in the world, you have to do these things. You have to honor your engagement. You can't say, "Oh, to hell with it. The cows are underwater. I don't feel like putting on scuba gear. I'll go out there next in 2 or 3. Oh, they have to be fed too. Oh, this is going to be a mess. I'll just wait 2 or 3 weeks and I'll go out there and I'll see what's going on." No, you're not going to do that. You're going to be attending because you have to attend. And we have to create the kind of world where all of us, are needed and that we need each other and that it's not a one-way street. I'm going to just take from a society. And it's also not going to be that I'm just going to give to a society. Um, we have to, and I say this in one of my books, um, we have to create a relational society where we are in relationship with each other. Um, and because my timer went off a minute ago, I'm going to shut up now. Um, the I am looking to see if there is anyone else who is in attendance, and Karen is, and there she is. And she's going to tell us something.
Well, what you were just starting to get at was what I just wanted you to elaborate on, which is moving from those signs of hunger for the sacred to being more receptive to love and compassion. And so um, yeah, being needed, or having a need for another. It seems like respect. I don't know, creating things that, um, so you're more outside yourself and considering others. I was wondering if you could elaborate some more on that.
Well, you're doing a pretty good job. Keep going. Um,
Well, because there's as you were reading through these anger and violence, escapists, deny and numb, control and manipulate. There's a whole bunch of this going on right now. And so it's like, oh, what might be some examples of how to start to yeah, I don't know what it takes to start to move the needle or yeah.
well, in a way you do. Um, we do. And what we need to do is um, the first step. Take the first steps. And uh, I'm thinking back, and I don't see Greg Ganshaw on the line. He's when I talk about
How
what
do I get my thing?
years ago with the Commons Cafe, we did that. We brought people together.
Ouch.
Okay, Kate, you are
Oh, sorry.
your microphone is hot. I just want to let
Okay.
you know. And
All
if
right.
you want to say something,
I do. I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand and I couldn't find the gadget. So I'll turn myself off. I'm okay.
yeah, and
I,
consider your hand raised, and you're after Greg.
okay.
Um, the um, we brought people together across the lines that divide. I mean, these lines are ephemeral. These lines, a lot of these lines are just literally created by the media, and we can move through and we can ignore them whenever we want to. I had a very powerful moment standing at the Berlin Wall about 2 weeks after the first holes went into it. I had it. There's plenty of wall there. I chipped at my wall. I got a little vial full of Berlin Wall in my storage area. I'm very proud to say. Um, but we can take the Berlin Wall down at any time. It's just that it took us, what, 40 or 50 years to do it. We can bring down all these walls these phony walls that we've created at any time. It's just that we haven't it's like the swifts about to turn into a murmuration. We can do that whenever we want to. We have to want to do that. And we're working on that, but you have to have the right circumstances. We had those circumstances 30 years ago with the Commons Cafe. We had thousands of people around the country going into these cafes. They had no idea who was behind it. I didn't need publicity. I didn't um when we did a Commons Cafe in a city, the organizers would fly me in and they'd say the first thing, well, this is the guy who created the Commons Cafe, and everybody would, who's he? You know, and I'd get up and go blah 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 for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'd sit down. You know, they took it from there. We will get back there, and we're going to get back there sooner than you think. Okay. Um, we are now going to call on Greg because I can keep going like this. Um, so
Now,
Greg.
Okay. I think the most important thing when we ask, what can I do, is changing your own consciousness, continuing to evolve is the most important thing. What we're doing with this meditation, with some of the ideas that we have, that all works better and better the more evolved we are. You know, right now, for example, I am aware not just of conflicts that are in the news, like what's going on in Gaza and what's going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but there's about 30 things like this all over the world. There are corporations ruining the habitat of indigenous people. You know, I'm aware of it all, but my reaction isn't to fret about it. My reaction is to know that we are evolving beyond this. We need to think in terms of geologic time. A geologic second is 1,000 years. 1,000 years from now, this planet is going to be a beautiful place. And we have to stop
Way or
going,
another.
what am I what am I going to do? What's in it for me? What's going to happen to me? Right? Because that's what is getting in the way. The ideas that we have when we're driven by what's going to happen to me are not ideas that help the planet. They're ideas that may seem to help us in the short term. And that, as a matter of fact, I'm going to mention my favorite of Sharif's offerings, um, releasing the shadow, embracing the light. That was pivotal in me understanding that what we need to do can't be about us except as members of a species that is one. So I think that's a good place for me to end. We are all one. And what we have to do is see ourselves as holons, individuals that are part of a greater whole, and act accordingly.
Number one, yep. Number two, I I'm living this every day. I mean, literally every day. And when I'm not living it, people will walk up to me and say, "Oh, what's that pin you're wearing?" It's like, oh, okay, that's why the pin is there, to remind me that I've made a choice in the world. Okay. And my choice is that I am creating a world that works for all living beings. Um, that this is me restraining myself. Kate, thank you for waiting patiently. And I don't see you or hear you. If that was too abrupt a change, I can keep going for a while.
Can I speak now? I don't
Uh,
know.
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm using my phone and I'm not as facile with the where to find buttons. That's my
That's
fault. Yeah, I was kind of the being needed thing kind of triggered something that I feel is really important. Two things. I it in my work with young people, I have really seen it being really transformative when, because my work was in service learning where students would use their work in ways that contributes to the community. And I think young people, I just saw the lights go on so many ways when they really saw and experienced that they are needed in their community, not needy. And I
Mhm.
think that to me was a real transformative kind of experience. And I think our communities are just hungry for people to feel needed. And yesterday was an interesting thing. I went to a gathering. It's people who really at the county level are dealing with health issues and obviously devastated with all the budget cuts because of what's happening at the national level. But what they carried into it was, remember that a lot of what we're doing that's been cut was actually generated by the Black Panthers without any government support decades ago, because the free breakfasts, the after school programming, a lot of the things that people are feeling is being ripped away. But in a way, if it can be built in anew, with it being sort of developed where people at the local level are the ones doing the providing. It's not to say we have to eliminate there's a whole challenge about the funding piece of it, but I think the heart of it was, how do we create community where how we do things generates those kinds of ways of supporting each other, and that we're doing that as community. It isn't always an external organization or something that is outside of the kind of community in which we live. So anyway, it was just kind of, and there are several cultural community villages that are starting to get developed in even within the greater Portland area. And those speak deeply to what you talked about how do we create community where people feel needed as an integral part of the way they live. And they don't just think about it conceptually, but it's how they experience their lives in that community. So that was all.
Number one, thank you. Number two, there's always a number two for me. I These times are definitely calling for change, but the change that you see, the change that you advocate is based on your as the Buddha said, your capacity to see and your capacity to feel. Um, um, when you are operating holonically, when you are operating from the consciousness of I am one of all, when I am the all, okay, then you do things differently. Like, for example, people in the middle of of an earthquake, look at what happens as soon as the earth stops shaking. All of a sudden they start operating as a community that is willing to help and sacrifice for each other, regardless of who they're being sacrificed for. My primary example of that, I mean, like there's an example going on right now. There's an earthquake where in the Philippines or something like that, um, and earth stops shaking. People just get out and start helping each other. Um, the opposite, no, the same as that. When the bad earthquake happened in San Francisco, when the double-decker 880 expressway pancaked down on itself and trapped all these motorists in their vehicles, there were people climbing up into the wreckage while everything is still shaking to rescue people. And they weren't saying, I'm only rescuing Democrats. I'm only going to rescue Republicans. I'm this, they were, they were acting in a way that their hearts were driven to, that the holonic thought, not my thought. Remember actually, I forget which, I don't think it was this group, so I'm not going to give you the example. Um, Me risking my life for another person I had never seen before was not my choice. I was not making that choice. The, and then you're going to fill in this blank with words. The divine, the whole, the group consciousness, whatever you want to say, made the choice for me. And it was the right choice to make, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy I was a participant in making this choice. But reaching into the elevator to pull the woman out of the elevator was not something I would have made with my conscious mind. Okay. Um, um, oh, Kate, one more thing. When you're talking about the lights going on, I think that's one of the most rewarding things of the kind of work that we're doing. Um, when we're doing the Commons Cafe on a small level, the small cafes were 50 to 80 people. And you got kind of regular people, um they're coming because they're curious. They have no idea what's going to happen. And somewhere in the first hour or so, you start watching the lights going on at each table. People are getting that, oh, whether it doesn't even matter what we're talking about right now. I'm getting fed by just having this conversation with real human beings. When's the last time you had a conversation with a real human being that didn't have a beginning point, didn't have an end point, didn't have a point at all, but we were connecting with each other as humans, not as Democrats and Republicans, not as aren't those people over there terrible, aren't not as I'm going to try to make some money off of you or you're going to try to make some money off of me. When do we have that as an opportunity? Around the world, on every continent I've been on, in every configuration of humanity, people want that, they yearn for that, the and our job is to create that in such a way that we replace the economic, social, political structures with this other thing. What's the other thing? um, right there. Wrote it down. Um, suggest you get it and take a look at it. Other comments or thoughts or opinions or activities, or I'm not seeing any microphones going on. I'm not seeing, and I have to do a look here. It's so weird. Um, yeah, I'm not seeing that there's anyone trying to get on the live stream here. Um, we may be done. I'll tell you something I'm thinking about. Well, I'll tell you something I am doing and then something I'm thinking about. Um, One of the things I'm doing for October, November, December, maybe also January, is going back to some of these fundamental principles that appear in the Commonway writings, what I call the philosophy of inclusivity. Um, as Greg said, I mean, there's some elements to the philosophy of inclusivity. Spiritual starvation is one of those elements. Um, the three types of consciousness are one of those elements. Um, the uh, our the 1,000-year plan, got a 1,000-year plan in here, is one of those elements. Okay. Um, and we can um, talk about them. And for you, a lot of you have the notion of talking to others about the Commonwealth philosophy. Um, I want to create an opportunity for you to say to someone, oh, Sharif's talking about the really foundational stuff here. You should pay attention to these videos. You should pay attention to this conversation. You should come in on the weekly catalyst meditation. And when they say, oh, that's too early in the morning, or for the people on the East Coast, it's too late. I'm in my day, etc. It's like, okay, well, there'll be an evening on Tuesday that we get together. Um, we are, well, yeah, we are steering ourselves towards something. and an activity that is going to be easy to do, something that each of us can do, something that'll make sense in our lives to do, and something that will be hopefully growing and expansive. I'll show you one picture here. This showed up on my telephone pole on Monday. It says, I chopped the top of it off. It says revolution is possible, and then blah, 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 blah. General strike in the US. Um, One of the blah, blah, blahs says that Nepal overthrew its corrupt government in a few days, organizing through Discord and taking real action in the streets with an exclamation point. And that is a showing of uh, a deep lack of understanding of what happened in Nepal. I've been to Nepal several times. I know that they've been they have a long history of uh, overthrowing kings and overthrowing monarchs and overthrowing the next guy in the line, etc. And they have not realized that none of that builds a society. None of it. And what we're doing is from the ground, literally from the ground up. What are the factors that literally build the society? And the society is built right here. It's not built by saying, throw the bums out because you just get another breed of bum. Uh, and they've been through a whole bunch of bums in Nepal, and they keep throwing them out, and they keep getting more. There's a small handful of us in Nepal who I'm still in contact with them, who are looking at this larger process. In a way, they've got it easier over there. The thing that we were saying earlier about not being tied to a society, not being tied into the fabric of a society, they definitely are. And when they take action, it's going to look different. It's going to look much more interesting. If I go off on what's going to happen in Nepal and Sri Lanka, etc., I will be here all day, and my bladder will not allow that to happen. So let you everything works fine. So it's got to come back now. Listen, I've enjoyed this. I will be processing the video to get it up as soon as possible to all the people who couldn't be here. And we will do more of this at another point in time. May all beings be well. May all beings be secure, and may all beings be happy. Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.